Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Welcome to the Doc and the Radical program. Peace and blessings, Doc. How you doing?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good. Glad to be here. Glad to see you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Work circumstances had us miss last week, or had me miss last week,
Yeah,
but
tell the
we are
truth.
back in
Tell
live.
the truth. Let the people know the truth.
That damn cracker wouldn't let me go. All right. All right. Doc, you want to go ahead and talk about the site?
I'm Dr. James Thomas Jones III. I am the creator, owner, and writer of manhoodraceculture.com and also the YouTube channel of the same name, trying to get more disciplined and diligent about writing and producing content right now. I got some things in my mind and be looking for them. So would appreciate the support, manhoodraceculture.com, and also the YouTube channel by the same name, Manhood, Race, and Culture.
Right. So, Doc, today our program, we're going to be dealing with our Black people's, some of our people's inability to perceive danger that's around them, especially when dealing with people who have not just passive dislike for you, but dealing with people that actually hate you. We're going to be looking at several different scenarios and then coming up with is the proper response that needs to happen. Because it's like, generation after generation, we are around people that don't like us. We are around people that hate us. And there's an air in America now that you can't speak the truth. Whereas if you say Jews are not a race of people, then that's a problem. If you say white people in their history have been the most savage people when it comes to robbing, stealing, Black people, I'm not acting like Black people don't steal. Black people steal, but that's petty stealing. These motherfuckers, when they steal, they rob countries. When they steal people. I mean, these are the real thieves of the planet. But to be able to say that, you're considered a hater, you're considered illogical. To say that transgendered women are really men. They're not real women. Oh my God, he's transphobic.
Mm-hmm.
No, tell him the truth. You're not a woman. You're a man pretending to be what you will never be. You're not a woman. And so in this age of anti-truth, I think we have to be even stronger in our telling the truth, because the truth is not a popular thing to be told. This is the environment where everybody gets a trophy, whether you win or lose. What is your thoughts on those things, Doc?
We're dealing with, and actually, I just finished a journal article that I'm going to be submitting. And one of the issues that I deal with there, and actually the journal article is discussing Black armed self-defense and sort of refuting the idea that Black folk laid down when marauding whites came and attacked. One of at the very beginning that I had to deal with the idea of gun rights in the U.S. Constitution. And there's a line in there that I wrote that basically says this issue boils down to a simple battle of where my rights begin and yours end. And that's the gift and the curse of the U.S. Constitution, that it's able to be interpreted It's able to be it's very malleable. It can be shaped into different things. And let's be very clear. Anything is possible right about now. If you're able to stack the US Supreme Court with individuals who are of one political leaning like we have now, anything is possible. Because when that ruling comes down, even though it is illogical, it is against anything that any sensible person would think about, it's the new law. So in many ways, we're arguing about what level, what gradient of freedom do we actually have? Are you free to do whatever it is that you want to do? And if you are free to do whatever it is that you want to do, are you able to do that despite the protest of other individuals? That's the conundrum of our time.
And Doc, do you think that because you brought up the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution, the writers of the Constitution, do you think that they envisioned that we would be in a day like we are now, where you can't say the truth? Your free speech has become a problem.
No, there's so many things that they couldn't have conceived when they framed the U.S. Constitution, this so-called august body of individuals creating this perfect document. And I remind people and say, well, if it was a perfect document, perfect ideals, we wouldn't have to amend it as years go by. So no, they could not have conceived what we're dealing with at the present moment. You have to remember that these were men, as all men are. They're men of their time. And there are certain things that, in their wildest imaginations, they could have never imagined what we're dealing with right now. And I don't care if I could see, honestly, race, but the idea about sexuality, gender orientation, even abortion, the founding fathers could not have conceived that. And I'll give you one of the examples of how things change. Robert F. Williams, Robert F. Williams, Negroes with Guns, Jonesboro, no, it wasn't Jones, it was Monroe, North Carolina, where he was at. The Deacons for Defense and Justice were in Jonesboro. While researching Robert F. Williams, I found this very weird, almost impossible to believe association. The NRA actually granted a charter to Robert F. Williams for him to start a rifle club, and Robert F. Williams named it the Black Armed Guard. During their creation, during Reconstruction, the NRA had no way of thinking about dealing with this idea of gun rights and this big battle that's going on. So as time go long, you're going to see some issues that the initial framers of whatever it is that you're looking at. I don't care if you're looking at Karl Marx and Marxism. Marx he couldn't have imagined where we are right now. So times change, and you have to be very adaptable and learn to change with the times somewhat. However, changing with the times also runs the risk of you being, as my pastor, Reverend Dr. Johnny R. Heckert, liked to say, a compromising Christian. And before you know it, you're so far distant from the gospel that you can't recognize, you couldn't see it if you tried.
Wow. And I just want to real quick give a shout out to Twin Pyramid and Mellow Cat. Peace and blessings to y'all. Thank y'all for always supporting the platform. Y'all are always one and two of the first ones that always make a comment on the videos. So we thank you all for joining us and being a proud supporter of the platform. And so, Doc, there's a price for everything. There's a price. There's nothing free. and to be able to teach truth in a world that is bent on lies. As we talked earlier about the transgender issue, where they get upset because you say that they're not a real woman, that they were born a man. But their thing is, you have to accept me as I see myself. And now they have it where they want you to identify your pronouns, he, she, her, this, that, all that. Where my name is sufficient. Who I am is sufficient. But because you feel that people need to recognize how you want to call yourself, and you want to be, one lady said, and I wish I'd have tagged the video, but she was in Target, and she had came last week, and her 7-year-old saw the gay pride stuff. And she said her 7-year-old is non-binary, and that he or it was happy to see the gay pride stuff up in Target. Now she went in a couple of days ago and is moved. So she did this little video with her little fake tears and saying that how upset she is, and she don't know how she's going to bring her non-binary child in because now it's gone. So Target don't support it no more because people came out against it. There's no way in the world that, because that's how they want to live their lives, that should impeach on my life. That now I gotta go out and teach my child, you can be non-binary, you can be this, you can be that, or let somebody else come up and teach my child, you can be this, you can be this, you can do that. It's foolishness. And it's like, this is unacceptable. It's offensive. But there's a price to pay if you say that. Would you recommend for Black people in America to go ahead and stand on that ground? Or would you say that it's not worth the fight? Because they are bringing this foolishness into the schools.
Everything has to be framed, especially when you're talking about Black folk. It has to be looked at through an economic lens. And one of the things that is almost an age-old truism, poor people can't talk junk because they can pull your financial resources away from you, and you're going to be in some serious trouble. Now, there is a difference between allowance, I guess you could say, or tolerance, and acceptance. Christians used to say it this way, that we are in the world, but not of the world. That's the world we're living in now. And there are some situations and some moments that whoever's making the rule decides that that's not acceptable. And really, let's be very clear that we're living within a capitalist nation. So everything is predicated upon, is it profitable? Who's the beer maker is it Bud Light that's gotten all the trouble? And people and they're no longer buying their beer, and now you see them backpedaling, and you've even seen Troy Aikman jump forward with his beer, number 8, trying to capitalize upon that opening within the market. It's a time, and it's always been a time where, as the Wu-Tang Clan would put it, cash rules everything around it. Cash is ruling everything around us. And that's what it comes down to. When Target got in trouble, because I can tell you exactly what they're thinking, that if we're inclusionary, we'll be able to in every way extend our audience and our market. Never figuring that by including some other people, you're going to offend some. It's in many ways the old affirmative action argument that Alan Baki's lawyers made. In your zest, in your hurry to include people, you did not realize that you were excluding other people. That's where we're going to be at culturally. We're really beyond a tipping point where we use this term of tribalism. We're really going to become tribal now, to the point where you won't buy a product that is supporting another tribe that you disagree with. That's where we are. Welcome to America. Now, who's right, who's wrong? It is predicated upon the idea of your proximity to what the issue is. There are some things that for us, you know, as me being raised within the Baptist church, that my son has not, he wasn't exposed to it from me and his mother. And I can remember a moment we were at, I want to say 24-hour fitness. I believe that's where I had my membership at the time. And there was a guy who he dressed in the men's locker room, but he wore what Chris Rock refers to as a stripper shoes, stripper heels, those clear wedge. So on this one particular day, I'm getting my son out of the little daycare area. He was 3 or 4 years old. And I have him sitting down. I can remember this moment like it was earlier today. He's sitting down. I'm trying to put his shoes on and get him. And he says, Dad, look at him. He got on girl shoes, Dad. He got on girl shoes. You know, and there's something, I guess it's something innate about how he viewed the world. At a football game, there was a male cheerleader who was, he wasn't one of those that was hoisting people up. He was doing the dance and that the female cheerleaders were doing. And my son and 2 of his friends were down at the railing and they began a chant. You are not a girl. You are not a girl. And it's not something that I taught him, but it's also not something that I necessarily had a problem with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, we're going to go into our first story today about this clerk in Detroit. And I want to say this too, because Brother Bakari, with these Arabs, they have a way that they do. They will lock you in their stores. And this is from what Brother was saying down at Atlanta. And they lock you in that store and they pull out them bats and they beat you. This is what they've been doing to Black people. And they did it to him one day. They locked the door, but he pulled out his gun and said, y'all better open that door up or I'm gonna blow some holes in your asses. And they opened that door. Now, I am not a proponent of others coming into our community and opening up businesses. I don't believe in that. I don't like that. I think that that's something that we should be doing.
Okay, why do you disagree with that?
Because that's something we should be doing. We should be servicing our own needs, period, point blank. I couldn't go to Chinatown and open up a Black business in Chinatown. I couldn't even, and I tried. There was an empty building down in Chinatown, and I called and said I wanted to rent it out and put a business there. And they were like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, why can't I do that? This America, it's in China. And it's like, but this is our part. We service our people. You just couldn't put a business here. And you can go to the city council and complain, but we already got it secured that there will be no business here other than our own businesses. Now, when he said to me that you can go to the city council and complain, it's already been secured. That lets me know that you've already made agreements behind the scenes that, yes, you are allowed to keep it all your own people. If they got that power and they just came here yesterday, we should be able to have that same power and make what we desire be the cause, period, point blank. But we are infested with the Arabs. We're infested with the Chinese. We're infested with the whites. We're infested with everybody except us. And so they come into the neighborhood and they do things like that, locking the door on Black people and then gonna pull out their bats. And now I'm gonna beat you because your mouth was running too much. And there's a disrespect that we know happens, but we seem to look the other way. And it's time for that kind of thing to be over. And so my thing is, when we find them in our communities and they're up and they break our morality rule, our morality law, because just because it's immoral doesn't mean it's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So if they break our morality law, then I propose we shut it down. I don't care if we got to burn it down. I don't care what, but they need to cease and desist. They have lost their right to have a business in our community. They've lost that right. Now, some have said, when I presented this in a political environment, well, then you're making it harder on the community because now they don't have a store to shop in. Well, my retort is, then that will teach you to do for self. Because as hard as it gets, somebody gonna say, well, let me take and open up a business there. Let me put a store there.
You know, one of the things that I preach to my students, it's changing somewhat now, but where the university is, it's in Waller County, it's out in the country. It's probably 30 to 40 minutes outside of Houston. And although Houston is a sprawling city and it's making its way out there finally, but I would tell my students, whenever you come up with this statement, man, there's nothing out here. We have to, whatever that next thing is, you need to have a mindset that not of lack, but of opportunity, because you have identified a need for a community and you can create a business plan, and you can fill that gaping hole. Even in that situation, I've seen non-Black folk come in, set up a business and do fantastic business and work. Far too often, it appears to me that there is a lack of pride and common sense when it comes to economic decisions that Black America will make. We will make the most prudent, or how can I put it, economically savvy, we think, move that we could make, because we're going to save 5 cents at this store versus paying 5 cents more at a Black owned store that is employing Black folk, circulating the dollar. That's a problem. And it's for me such a significant problem that you almost want to throw your hands up and give up, because these are just simple survival things. I was watching a documentary or something, and they were talking about the Asians and Arabs within Black America. And they had one of the most offensive constructs, yet true, when describing the Black folk that patronize their businesses. They referred to Black America as liquid money. Money that just quite simply pours through their hands like water. And they're there with buckets, collecting it, employing their own people, sending money back to their people. And yet there is, and this is why, I repeatedly talk about the idea of education and how you conceive yourself and perceive yourself and view other Black folk. There is a subconscious, at least, for some of us, unfortunately, I believe it's conscious hatred. We behave as if we hate one another. And now, talking about your intellectual diet, what you're reading, and now what you're watching as far as videos, because these people are not reading the classic text. They're picking up, although it's entertaining, they're definitely picking up these negative messages and behaviors. And I'm not one to even believe that all of this foolishness that we're seeing is necessarily scripted. But I do believe that much of what we're seeing, too many of our people, we behave as there's this concept called tabula rasa, a blank slate. We behave as if we are blank slates, and whatever foolishness we see out in the world, whatever we see on TV, it becomes the very personification of what Blackness is.
Mhm.
Come on.
Mhm.
Come on now. Who with some pride in themselves goes outside with a bonnet on a regular and some pajamas to go to the store?
Mhm.
There's been a erosion of our pride,
Mhm.
and that's homegrown. That's homegrown.
I remember reading in one of the reports, I think it was the commission, when all the riots broke out back in the day.
The current
And yes, the Kerner Commission. And they were talking about that in the Black youth at that time, they saw a resurgence of pride.
Mhm.
They talked about they didn't walk around with their head down. They walked around with their head up. They were more proud to be Black. They were not afraid to say hunky. They wasn't afraid to say my brother or my sister. They what was it? They rallied around
Mhm.
being Black. It meant
Mhm.
power.
Mhm.
And it is that kind of love of self, I believe, that was strategically destroyed through TV.
Mhm.
Through TV, making it, because as I was listening to this professor talking about the transgender and LGBT people, she said something to me that really clicked. She said, because we discuss it and have these people brought before us, and then it becomes normal.
Mhm.
It becomes a part of the everyday fabric.
Mhm.
And so as I thought about that, and then understanding the way the TV environment changed from, you had Black Journal, then it changed from being
Tony
Black
Brown.
Journal to Tony Brown Journal, right? And dropping the Blackness and invoking something to replace it, this integration of equality BS,
Mhm.
to weaken the love of being Black, to where you have some people, I'm not Black, I'm American.
Mhm.
I'm not even African American. I'm American. I am all of this and none of you.
Mhm.
And I think that thought is very dangerous, very destructive.
Well, certainly. I mean, there's always a sub discourse going on in America. What people say in public is not what they're going to do in private. And that's a very difficult thing for our people to understand in mass. It is socially acceptable. It is polite society for you to go forward and to have this idea of, to espouse an idea. Yeah, we're all Americans and we're all, working towards the same goal, this and that. Our leadership appears to be the only ones that believe that foolishness, because everybody else is going to be cordoning off and strategizing in regards to how to move their group forward. Let's be very clear. And this is one of the things that I talk about often when I lecture, if Russians are from Russia, Croatians are from Croatia, and Jamaicans are from Jamaica, where in the world are white people from? And many people will say, well, the Caucasus Mountains, well, the Caucasians are from there. I'm talking about white folk. And in many ways, this idea, this concept, this racial identity of whiteness is wholly made up, because they understand that there's strength in numbers. And so you have this hodgepodge mismatch of persons of European descent who understand now, okay, over here we're white, and we're all going to kind of vote along the same voting blocks. And once we win the lion's share, if not all, of the political economic resources, then we'll divvy them up amongst ourselves. And never will they necessarily break from those guidelines. And it happens amongst Republicans and Democrats as well. Malcolm talked about this when he talks about the idea that when a white man comes to join a civil rights organization, he says, I'm boss. He didn't come in there to be a foot soldier. He came in there to orchestrate and to control whatever benefits or resources that you Negroes may have been able to win. He's still in control of them.
Exactly.
He's not in control of them. He has some blackface individual who is white-minded that's going to do his bidding and get y'all in line. And it's a very difficult situation to be in, to be, as Du Bois said it this way, it's very difficult to be poor in a rich land, because your leadership will even sell you out. Your so-called leadership, if they can break the cycle of generational poverty, they shall surely do it and leave you behind. They're capitalists. That's their God. Their God is money. It's not the liberation and salvation of the Black nation.
Exactly. I want to also welcome Brother Roy, Brother Willie Rivers, and Deacons of Reality. Welcome to the platform. Love y'all. Also good, strong supporters of the platform. And so we're gonna go to the first video that we're going to share, and let's take a look at that, and we'll come back and discuss it.
All right, Ron, our other top story here at 5, the gas station clerk who police say automatically locked a door moments before a man opened fire on customers inside that store has now been charged.
22-year-old Al Hassan Ayash faces felony charge of involuntary manslaughter surrounding a dispute allegedly over just $4 worth of merchandise. Sean Lay is live tonight with this story. Sean, there are a lot of questions that still surround this case.
Absolutely, Kimberly. Here's the deal. First and foremost, the gas station remains closed. The city found that it was operating without a license after the shooting. Now, here's a picture of Gregory Kelly on the gas station door here. He was one of 3 men trapped inside the shop. He was shot and killed. The other 2 customers with him were also shot. They survived. The clerk was able to lock this door, trapping those men inside with a gunman. Now, he was in court today. His attorney says, yes, he used poor judgment, but he should not be charged.
I've never seen this before, but their theory is to hold him responsible, criminally responsible, for the intentional crime that's committed by somebody else.
The attorney for 22-year-old Al Hassan Ayash admitting the gas station clerk used poor judgment but should not be held responsible for 3 innocent customers being shot inside the gas station May 6th. Samuel McCray is charged with shooting the 3 customers. One man, 37-year-old Gregory Kelly, was shot multiple times and was killed. But the clerk is also facing involuntary manslaughter charges for using an automatic lock to lock the store's door as he argued with the gunman. Video from inside the shop is terrifying. The 3 customers were trapped, the gunman making it clear that he would shoot everyone if the door was not unlocked. And that's exactly what the gunman did. Ayash's attorney says he locked the door to help police.
He calls the police and he locks the door so the thief can still be there when the police arrive.
This was all over Ayash thinking McCray was going to walk off with an iced tea and a pack of donuts. And prosecutors say it was Ayash who escalated the entire situation.
And people were pulling, kicking, trying everything they could to get out of there, and they were stuck in there because of the defendant.
Ayash's attorney wanting a low bond for him, the judge saying no way.
It wasn't just the locking of the door. It was a participation in escalation of this situation and then locking the door while people were begging to be let out.
Now, this is Ayash's arraignment today. He's officially been charged. So much information, so much back and forth just in that arraignment alone. Bottom line, the magistrate's setting a $200,000 bond for the clerk, Kimberly and Devin. If he makes that bond, he'll be on house arrest on a tether. Back to you.
Sean, the clerk, Ayash, he was out on bond for another charge when the shooting happened, and it sounds like that played a part in giving him the bond that he got today.
The magistrate said that, talking about a threat to the public. He was out on bond currently for felonious assault and a felony gun crime related to a road rage incident. Goes to the judgment issue, the magistrate said, so she set that high bond.
Yeah. Okay, Sean, thanks.
And we got another one
A
that's
controversial court decision that could lead to freedom for the gas station clerk seen on camera locking customers inside with a gunman. Glad you're with us for Local 4 News at 6. I'm Devin Skillion.
I'm Kimberly Gill. That clerk facing serious charges after an irate customer shot 3 customers, killing one of them, and now the clerk's bond has been lowered. Sean Lay is the reason behind that, has the reason behind that change. And Sean, the judge said he's well aware some people are not going to like this.
That's exactly right. He also reminded the court today that bond is set not to punish a defendant, but to certainly make sure a defendant's going to show up back in court and also to protect the public. So he did lower the clerk's bond today in this case right here at 36th District Court. He says it's the right call, even though it's not the popular call. 22-year-old Al Hassan Ayash admits he automatically locked his gas station's door while arguing with irate customer Samuel McCray over $3.18 in donuts and iced tea May 6. McCray's debit card was declined. In locking the door, Ayash also locked in 3 innocent customers. As the situation got more heated, those customers begged Ayash to let them out. Prosecutors say McCray shot all 3 customers, killing 37-year-old Gregory Kelly. Ayash's attorney saying the clerk was simply following orders from his gas station bosses.
And was given directives as part of his employment. If any patron of the store, customer of the store steals anything, they got these automatic locks. And to lock the door, call the police. That's precisely what happened on the question.
Ayash is charged with involuntary manslaughter. The issue today, deciding if the clerk is a danger to others if he is let out on bond. At the time of the incident, Ayash was on bond for felonious assault and felony gun crimes from a road rage incident. His initial bond for the gas station incident was $200,000. Bond was automatically revisited. A judge lowered it to $100,000. Prosecutors say Ayash is a danger because he put others in danger with the man threatening violence.
And it's in that context when Mr. Ayash decides that it's somehow appropriate to lock that man in who's threatening to take human life in with 3 innocent customers who have nothing to do with the situation.
Judge Kenneth King today lowering the bond to $10,000, putting Ayash on house arrest.
Not here to punish him at this juncture. See, that'll come later if it comes at all.
Back here live. At the time of the gas station shooting, the clerk Ayash was on bond for a road rage incident, felony assault, and a felony gun crime. Also important to point out that his attorney today on multiple occasions reminded the court that he was only doing what he was trained to do by the gas station managers at that Mobil. That is the exact focus of a huge lawsuit being brought on behalf of one of the men shot there against Mobil and against the gas station owners for training employees to lock people in this case, against their will. We're live tonight at 36th District Court. Sean Lay, Local 4, back to you.
Okay, Sean, thank you.
A controversial court is.
All right, so let's come back and talk about this. So, Doc, here you have it where this idiot right here, who, as they said, was already on bond for some major crime, locked the brothers in over $3 and some change, almost $4. The white judge gives him a $200,000 bond. The black judge reduces it to $10,000 and lets him out. What's your reaction to what you're seeing?
Was the first judge a white judge? I thought it was a sister.
It looked white to me, but we can rewind it to see.
I thought that was a sister.
Let's see.
Look at the name.
Top story here at 5. The gas station clerk who police say automatically locked a door moments before a man opened fire on customers inside that store has now been charged.
22-year-old Al.
7-year-old Gregory Kelly was shot multiple times and was killed. But the clerk is also facing involuntary manslaughter charges for using an automatic lock to lock the store's door as
was a participation in escalation of this situation and then locking the door while people were
to go back a second to see her name.
Then locking the door. Escalation of this situation. It was it wasn't just the locking of the door.
A low bond for him, the judge saying no way.
It wasn't just the locking of the door. It was a participation in escalation of this situation and then locking
that's not no white name.
While people
that's not Malaya.
Yeah.
That's one of them Afro-French names that we name our children.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not surprised at any of it. Not at all. I'm not surprised that that we have a criminal gainfully employed within our community, working, servicing our community, and I'm not surprised that we have a brother who has such a lack of discipline, an absence of impulse control, and a huge hole in regards to any racial solidarity as far as Blackness goes. It's in many ways the perfect storm that could only happen, to borrow Don King's message and twist it a little bit for our purposes, only in Black America would something like that happen. And the idea that you're going to lower the bond, I listened very closely to what bond was supposed to be used for, to protect the community. There's no way that lowering the bond increases any protection for anybody within the community. One of the more difficult things that we need to really talk about within Black America is developing an idea of zero tolerance for crime. Because if the crime is occurring within Black America, the crime is being perpetrated upon Black folk. There is a way for a populace to get rid of crime and criminals. They deal with it themselves. And when you consider that so many of the crimes that are happening within our community are predicated upon the lack of money, their property crimes and what have you, If we circulate the black dollar, we'd be able to employ our hardcore unemployables. And it would be a win-win for everybody within the community. But as long as you're allowing outsiders who are not going to reinvest in your community, who are just there in many ways as bloodsuckers, siphoning and sucking away the very economic blood of your community, to continue to do so without a challenge of any kind from Black America, you're going to continue to lose. It's one of the things that I used to talk about years ago. I called it the challenge. If you see someone with a business that is exploiting our people, start up a business to challenge it, a Black-owned business that would challenge it. Carter G. Woodson said this to us in The Miseducation of the Negro. He said that if a Black man has a very successful restaurant and doing good business, someone within our community will see that and will start up another restaurant, hoping to do good business as well. But what they're going to do is take half the customers, and neither business is going to be able to survive, when they should be looking at what is it that they could create that would aid that Black business, such as paper plates, plastic forks, napkins. There's an envy and a rivalry that seems to undergird so much of Black business. And when one person makes it, other people are envious of it, and the one that makes it oftentimes is flaunting their financial success in the face of others. And then we can have an entire conversation about the development of a Black so-called bourgeoisie class that are taking from the community as well and depositing their money in white banks and not reinvesting it within the community that allowed them to get Black folk rich.
And to think about that, I want to deal with each element here. When you have another Black man that sees two other Black people, and I think both of the people that he shot were Black men. And
I think he shot 3. He killed 1.
Right. Oh, so it was 3 people he shot? I thought he just shot 2.
No, he shot 3. 2 survived,
wow.
and 1 died.
So here you have a man, you're in an argument with a foreigner that locks everybody in the store, and he's the only one safe. But you're going to turn to 3 other people that look just like you, who did nothing to you, and going to say, if you don't open the door, I'm going to shoot you. Like they matter to him. And you pow, pow, pow. To people that look like you. But where's that anger for the person you're angry at? You attacking another victim. You would think that somewhere in your mind, you would say, well, even though it's supposed to be bulletproof glass, but I'm gonna shoot up the glass. But you're gonna turn to the innocent. And in the next video we're gonna play, Doc, you'll hear it, where they said to him, to both of them, to him and the clerk, we'll pay for his stuff. We'll pay for his stuff. Let us all out. And the clerk refused. Refused. And he turned and shot up our people. So you're dealing with hate of self and then hate from the side that don't even give a damn about the innocent that's about to be destroyed. Don't even give a damn. And it's like,
the problem is so deep, because you're talking about a grown man who was somehow able to get a gun and bullets and what have you, but who does not have $3.18 to his name.
Exactly.
You're talking about, class, you're talking about race, you're talking about the manifestation of a food desert. You can't tell me that the subpar diet that this brother has probably been exposed to has not impacted his thought processes. He's trying to get an iced tea and some donuts. There's absolutely nothing nutritious about some dough and some sugar. But that's where we are. And, I think about that when I see, my brothers out here homeless. Because and they're out here begging for change and what have you. There's mental illness there, there's addiction there, there's heartbreak there, there's depression there, there's all those things that are there. And I'm really questioning if there's anyone Black, not who cares, because I think a bunch of us care, but who could be a sizable difference maker for our people who are downtrodden. And that's a very difficult answer for me to give, because I don't see that person.
Definitely. During this winter, we were downtown, and I took a picture because it was freezing up here. And it was a picture at a church, in front of a church in downtown, and a Black person was sleeping on the vent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like all the money this city has. This is the best that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best that we can do. There's no real governance of the people. We know you can't legislate love. You can't legislate somebody to like you. You can't do that. But there should be, and that's why I'm such an advocate. When we whoop enough ass, everybody gonna get in line and do right. Because there's a thing in our community, there's a mindset. And I'm gonna say this, I believe it's majority in the older Black people mindset that all violence is wrong. And I just don't believe that. I don't believe all violence is wrong. I believe there are some problems and that only violence will solve those problems. Because violence is the only answer that certain people understand. That's the only language that you can talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that's a healthy language if executed properly. I believe it will set the tone, and people will understand that if you come this way and you doing wrong, we're gonna meet you right where you are. And that language, we as a people must begin to speak and speak properly. Because I believe that through that language, it will stop this kind of activity on both ends. On this brother end, that he's gonna learn to do right by your people, regardless of what your personal circumstances is.
Mm-hmm.
Still, you got a duty to your people. It's gonna teach this one right here to do right, because I believe his crimes that he already committed, I don't have actual fact, but I'm gonna go out on the limb to say that this road rage that he has done was against Black people.
Problem.
Was against Black people. He needed his ass whooped as well to learn the lesson of respect of who Black people are and what we are really about.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that that's a language that we have to learn to talk. We talked last week or the week before that about Haiti. Remember? And how the Haitian citizens start to rise up and go after the gangbangers and put tires of fire around them and killing them.
Yeah.
They got fed up. They got fed up. And we have to get fed up. And when we're fed up, all of this ceases. All of it ceases.
But I think that we have to become a we before we can become fed up. Because in many ways, our people are approaching this thing as the solution to it is quite simply to move away from Black America and from the Black community into a suburban area, into a gated community where they don't have to deal with these issues and problems. I don't see violence necessarily as the solution, or should I put it as corrective? I believe it is an attention getter. And once you get their attention, then you can go ahead and issue some corrective that this is how we do this around here. Now, you're free to do it the way that you want to do it, but you can't do that around here. That's the reason, and that's the difference between having sky-high crime within Black America when it's Black folk there, and you allow white folk to move in and clean up the community and what have you, and the crime disappears almost overnight because you know it's not acceptable over there. And Black folk, by and large, we have to stand on our what has been for hundreds of years, our principles. We may have been poor, but we weren't criminals. We loved each other. Now, where's the love?
Exactly.
When you look at, and this is sort of a personal thing, that when you look at the arena and the circles that we move in, arenas and circles that should be predicated and aimed at uplifting Black folk. If you're in it far enough, you will begin to recognize that even amongst those who are supposed to be uplifting Black America, the quote unquote Black nationalists, they don't like each other and are often unwilling to work with each other for whatever reason.
That's true. That's very true. One person that I used to deal with, when another colleague came into that circle, he said to them, "Welcome to the swamp pit." And I told the person when they told me that, I said, well, that's a very interesting choice of words, welcome to the swamp pit, but that's the reality. Because you'll get along with each other for only a few minutes. And then the jealousy and the envy will begin to arise, will begin to shoot up. And it does become a swamp pit. Next thing you know, you got brother against brother, sister against sister, organization against organization. And your unity is destroyed. So it is definitely a swamp pit. I was at a meeting last Tuesday, and we were talking about crime and what it is, what is our responsibility to do about it. And they started off with the LGBT crap. And they was like, I don't know where all this come from. Where did it come from? So I raised my hand and said, well, it comes from white people. Everybody in the room busts out laughing. Now, I'm not laughing. I'm serious as a heart attack. This is where it comes from. It comes from white people. This is your beginning of it right here. They laugh about it, I'm making a joke, but I'm not. I'm very serious. And I tell them, I say, look, on the street that I live is very quiet. and there was a disturbance as we pulled in. And there was a boy, a teenage boy, and two grown adult women, and another teenage woman, another teenage woman. And they were fighting, you know, not really boom, boom, boom fighting, but going back and forth with each other. And I got my family in the house, and I'm looking, and I'm like, this can't go on. This is not on the street. So I go out there to the ruckus because the lady's like, they jumped me and all this, and she done peed on herself, and she's like, they done jumped me in front of my son and all this. So the responsibility is on me now, because I don't believe in picking up the phone, calling the police. I am the police. So I go over there and I'm asking what's going on. Stop all of this. We don't do this here. And they explained to me that this is their aunt, and she's drunk, and she's trying to get in the car and drive, and they've taken her car keys. And so now she's trying to get the keys back, and they're preventing her from driving. So I say, well, okay, I understand what y'all doing. Y'all got it? Y'all need any assistance? They say, no, we got it. Thank you. So I said, all right, you're welcome. And I go back in the house. And I let everybody know, no, there's nobody being jumped or whatever. The lady's drunk and she's trying to drive, and they're not allowing her to get the keys. So this goes on for at least 20, 30 minutes. Then eventually somebody calls the police come out, settle it, talk to them and everything, and they get the drunk woman under control. But it's this responsibility. When I told that to the group, they were, oh my God, you could have got killed. This. But you the same people on Sunday that talk about you can do all things through Christ, which strengthens you. But your main thing is, let me call the police. Let me not get involved. Let me not do this. Well, wait a minute. Does he strengthen you in only some things and not strengthen you in all things? Where's the reality of faith without works is dead? Where is the reality that this is what you believe in, that's supposed to give you all power, all courage, all knowledge, and all stuff that you teach on Sunday, when you can't walk it in your everyday life? Then the reality is you don't believe what you say you believe. Mm-hmm. Because there's a mandate that you take control. There's a mandate that says that you got authority, but you don't want to walk in your authority because you're afraid. And it's because they fear. What they should never fear is the reason why you'll always be in a rut, and you'll be extinct, unacceptable for your days. And it's this reality that they don't want to step into, because it brings you out of your comfort zone. So it's like, wait a minute, is your religion going to be real, or is it going to be bullshit? Is God real, or is it bullshit? Which is it? Because you can't have it both ways. And this comfortability is sickening to me, because I hear you yapping, but you don't want to walk it. And then when somebody does walk it and tell you, this is what you can do. Oh, nigga, you crazy. We can't do that. You a fool. God protects fools and babies. There has to be a problem with your belief. So, Doc, my question I want to ask, do you believe that it's our responsibility to secure where we live? Or are we supposed to let the situation just run amok and we hide behind the window, we behind the stairs, we hide and act like we don't see it?
I'm a Black nationalist. Out of the sense, I'm not a cultural nationalist. I'm a revolutionary nationalist, out of the sense that Brother Malcolm was a nationalist. And the easiest way for me to even talk about it is to use Malcolm's definition of nationalism, which is quite simply that we believe that the Black man and Black woman should be in charge of the economics, the education, politicians within their community. And there's nothing radical, nothing revolutionary necessarily about that. That's what everyone else does. It's just always very different when it's us. And I would take it one step further. And I believe that we should be the ones who are dictating above and beyond anyone else. What are the cultural norms within our community? And unfortunately, we've allowed that to get out of hand. And we've allowed a base backwards culture to take hold, and to many ways determine the direction of our people. Now, we can argue about where the inspiration for that happened. I'm more concerned with what is, and how do we counteract what is. There has to be a quote unquote come to Jesus, a reckoning within our community. You know, our theme may very well need to be MC Breeze, ain't no future in your front, and call everybody out on the carpet for what they do. I don't care if you're talking about young girls who are scantily clad, or you're talking about 50, 60-year-old Black men who are lusting after them and trying to serve as a quote unquote uncle. There's so much wrong that goes within our community that we don't speak on. We need to correct that. We need, in many ways, what could be best termed a Black police force that regulates what are the cultural standards within our community. And for anyone who has a problem with what those cultural standards are, they are always free to leave. Because within our community, we do not have the luxury. The margin of error within Black America is so small. If you're a Black man and you get anything on your criminal record, you can probably cancel any gainful employment going forward. So we need to have mechanisms set up where we guide our young men and our young women down productive paths. And if you are a parent and you are not doing that, you should be addressed. And not only should you be addressed physically, you need to be corrected in regards to how we raise our children in this community, because obviously you did not learn it, or you've forgotten it, or you weren't paying attention when it occurred. Because greatness has to be nurtured. Greatness has to be tended to. And if you don't tend to your children, the system will eventually get their hands on them and do with them what they always do to Black children.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Doc, on the business side of this thing,
mm-hmm.
that this gas station, who didn't have a permit to be even open, but they're open.
Don't need no permit because they servicing Black folk.
It's like, where were the inspectors? How could the city fail this terribly? And this just didn't happen in Detroit. Come across different news reporting when I was like, well, any different? How easy is it to start a gas station and don't have permits? This thing is run rampant in Black communities. Gas stations that's open for business, but don't have no operating permit.
Mm-hmm.
This is big things going on in the Black community. And it's like, how does the city fail?
Within Detroit, you can't tell me that you don't have Black elected officials.
Well, yeah, majority of them are Black.
That's when this whole thing becomes, a farce. Because what are y'all doing? Because you're not servicing the community, you're not protecting the community. What are y'all actually doing? And the truth is they're doing what they've always done, which is absolutely nothing. You're dropping the ball. You're dishonoring, and that's my whole thing when I talk about calling people, to the carpet on what it is they do, and really working to build a honorable existence so our children can see and strive for a life that's worth living. That's not what we're seeing on a regular now. What we're seeing is something totally different. Something that, to be absolutely honest with you, as Frederick Douglass said, in What to the Slave is the 4th of July. We're seeing within Black America a behavior and actions that would shame a nation of savages.
We talked, Doc, about manufacturing consent.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we had a couple of people who said they never even heard the term until you spoke it, manufacturing consent. And so in this next video, we're going to watch Dr. Ritchie, him and his person that talk about the story that we just got finished talking about. And I want you to give them a letter grade. We're both going to do it. We're going to give them a letter grade.
Okay.
A to F, whether or not the way that, what kind of, is it manufacturing the consent that is needed to change the way communities see themselves and how we're dealt with? Is this the proper way of, is what they're manufacturing, is it enough to do what need to be done? So we're going to give it a letter grade.
It continues to happen. Now you have a store clerk who has been indicted for involuntary manslaughter because he decided to lock the door when a gunman was inside of the store shoplifting. $5 worth of items. Let's put up the picture full mass. We have to value human life better than this. El Hassan, a Detroit gas station clerk, has been charged with involuntary manslaughter after locking customers in a store with a man who made good on his threat to shoot people if the doors were not unlocked. Court records show that on Saturday, May 6th, around 3 a.m., Ayash was working at the mobile gas station when Samuel McCray attempted to make less than a $4 purchase. McCray attempted to pay for an iced tea and donuts on his credit card, but the bank declined the payment. McCray still wanted the items, even though he could not pay for them, according to prosecutors. Ayash was adamant to Mr. McCray. He could not leave without rendering proper payment, causing the customer to become increasingly hostile. McCray became very agitated and continued to argue with the clerk. The evidence would show that eventually, unknown to the three men, the clerk pushed a security button. That eventually, unknown to the three men, he pushed a security button, to unlock the door, but failed to tell the men seconds before McCray began shooting at the three individuals. That's according to a press release written by the assistant prosecutor, Maria Miller. According to Wayne County Assistant Prosecutor Anna Pasagian, Ayash locked the doors to prevent Mr. McCray from leaving, also trapping inside the space three completely innocent, non-involved customers. The attorney, Jamil Khuja, is representing Ayash and says his client called the police and only locked the door to stop McCray from leaving. For nearly 8 minutes, the customers were stuck inside the store begging to be released. The trio even offered to pay the damn $5, but the clerk would not yield. Okay, there's more. The witness said he even begged Mr. McCray, please, man, don't shoot us. We don't got nothing to do with this. And he started shooting. When the clerk did unlock the door, he failed to inform anyone of his decision, according to the attorney. Before noting 15 seconds later, McCray pulled out a gun and started wildly blasting in the store. The man shot 3 people, 60-year-old Anthony Bowden, Langston, and his friend, 37-year-old Gregory Kelly. Kelly was killed. He's dead. Officers arrived after the shooting, and McCray was identified and later arrested. So while McCray has been charged with first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, felon in possession of a firearm, and 4 counts of felony firearm, the prosecutor said during an arraignment on Friday, May 19th, the clerk's actions escalated the situation and directly led to Kelly's killing. Legal analysts say the prosecution will never be able to make that man criminally liable for the murder because he did not intend to pull the trigger. Still, if convicted of this charge, he could face up to 15 years in prison, according to the Detroit News. Employees have been noted, especially lately, prioritizing property over life, okay? Let's put it up. Stories like the death of Banko Brown, who was fatally shot at a Walgreens because of Walgreens security for an alleged theft, or the Dollar General employee who hit a man with a car over an alleged theft. Now, there's some irony to the original story that I just presented to you that must be highlighted, okay? They have charged him with involuntary manslaughter. Likely, it is a difficult charge to prove based on the elements or the statute that's listed for the state. But they charged him. To send a message, they charged him. An officer, if they do something similar, they never get charged with anything like this because they were acting in a way congruent to the law, they would say. But let's be clear. Do you think the clerk alone made this decision, or is there a policy directive in that store? Does this connect back to a management or ownership dynamic to do this when there's a shoplifter? And when did we get to a place where $5, think about this, $5 is what we're talking about. And all you have to do is allow the other person to pay for it as they offered, begging for their lives, to pay for the $5, let the man go. You have video, you have a description, maybe even have a license tag. But when the man says, I'm going to shoot people if you don't open this door, why in the hell would you not simply say, man, you got it? The value of life has been diminished in the parameters of our thinking. And now you have a tragedy all around. You have one person who walked in the store to legitimately get $4 worth of food. He couldn't. Bank declined it. There's an argument. He gets upset. He did not walk in that store to rob it, shoot somebody. He did not walk in that store to shoot somebody. That wasn't his intent, according to the prosecutors, but it happened. The clerk did not intend for anyone to be murdered, but it happened. And now the clerk is facing an involuntary manslaughter charge. And all parties had to do was to sit back and value the life of the person next to them. And everybody gets to go home. Sharing thoughts here.
But if you don't, you don't. And they didn't. They don't value the people in that store. I don't know this store, never been there, but I have a picture in my mind of who goes to that store, who frequents that store, and why they don't matter. And why the police showed up and only arrested the shooter instead of the man that held people hostage. That's what it's called. I don't know if it's different in Detroit, but that's what it's called, Dr. Ritchie. He should be charged. I have zero sympathy for anyone who follows dumb orders and could care less about beating hearts and people with families just like you.
That's right. Well said.
Scott, what's your letter grade? You're on mute.
I would give both of them an A, without a doubt. You know, the truth of the matter is that you have a response, even within the military. You know, you're not bound to carry out immoral orders. You know, you have a way of being able to even resist that within the military. You know, I used to work at a record store, Coconuts Record and Music. It was part of a Trans World Music Corporation. Record Town is probably the biggest domestic company that they had, but this was an international conglomerate. And our store policy was that if someone stole something, you let them have it and let them go. Well, I had a boss who named Jack Shahua. You know, he was one of the funniest dudes that you would ever come around, that you'd ever meet. And he had this kind of way of looking at things that just proved that he didn't have much wisdom. You know, he just reacted. And one day, and this is to show you how long ago this was, these were Walkmans that used to be in the big plastic case. This Asiatic brother, and I stood there watching him. He has about 10 Walkmen, and he's running towards the door. Jack Chahua was about 5'3", 130 pounds. Jack decided that he was going to put on his Superman cape that day, and this theft wasn't going to happen. Next thing you know, Jack is chasing this guy down the middle of a 7-lane, not quite highway, but the speed was 45 miles per hour. Jack eventually comes back to the store, and he has this weird look on his face, and I'm like, did you get him? He said, yeah, I caught up to him. He said, but right before I grabbed him, I just wondered, why am I doing this? For some Walkmans? Because the guy had dropped every single item somewhere along the road as he was running. People are, I believe, so anxiety-ridden in regards to keeping the little piece of job that they have, that they're going to extraordinary measures to prove their worth and utility to their employer. Back during the days of chattel slavery, we referred to those types of people as people who were seeking meritorious manumission. They're going to do something great to show the owner of how great they are. And maybe he'll give you an extra piece of pork fat to put in your beans. Maybe he might even free you. But that's coming from people in a position that are in many ways trying to maintain their position. Now this guy and these individuals who, and we all know the type of individuals who are running these stores, they're there for one purpose, the money. And they look down on Black folk. And it's one of the worst things. It's terrible that our people still are willing to stand in lines and to give these people their money. As if there's something wrong with our minds, and of course we know there is something wrong.
You know, my letter grade that I would give them would be an F. And I would give
what now?
An F. An F.
You give them an F.
Yes, and that's because, you know, that kind of reporting you can get from watching MSNBC or Channel 10, 29, whatever your local news station is. You can get that. Here, your direct audience, those who subscribe to you or whatever, and you should be, I believe, motivating the people to some form of action, no matter whether that is teaching them, so when they find themselves in that situation, they know exactly what to do. no matter whether it's teaching them how to prevent that type of situation so they know exactly what to do, but just don't, give them the story and then leave it so they don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. What's the next move? What's the plot? What's the plan? No. And so we have to do more than that. We have to be able to provide some type of direction, some type of solution so that we can end the problem. And so, because, and I like Dr. Ritchie, I watch him a few times, but I believe he has to do more. I would love to be able to, put a spell on everybody and have them have a Black first ideology, a Black first way of being. I would love to be able to do that, but I can't. So, I hope by our example of not just talking about what goes on, but this is how you should handle it. And not to say, Doc, that you agree with everything that I say on how things should be handled, but there's a way to handle everything. And I don't believe that we should continue to accept the same old, same old. We got to be able to show our people, hey, there's a different way to handle this. Don't just sit around and just let anything happen to you, because you matter. Your life is important. Your children's lives are important. And, I've been in a few situations, two really, where I was a store manager, my store was being robbed. And not thinking, just like your friend you just talked about with the Walkman chasing the people, me not thinking, and they run out of the store with the beer and jump in their car, and I'm to them. I'm running right after them, and here I am, half in the car and half to my waist. I'm inside the car, my feet dwindling on the outside, and they throwing the car in reverse, trying to drive off. It didn't even hit me, half in this car. It's just beer. Let go, And so I realized it and got acting a fool and say, y'all take it, go ahead. And they're like, thanks, bro, thanks. It's like, just go, but I wasn't thinking properly. I wasn't thinking properly. And then the next robbery, I'm working in the pharmacy, and I've never been robbed in no pharmacy. I've never, been, and it's a federal crime. You rob a pharmacy, you're doing fair time now. And so this is the first pharmacy I was at, and they got robbed before. And so I'm hearing them talking about it. So in my mind, I'm already preparing for what's going to happen if they try to come and rob, right? I'm already preparing what my response is. So the day that they come to rob us, I'm not at my station. I'm down on the other end. Now, mind you, my thing was somebody rushing the door like they say people do, talking about robbing, had a can at my station. So my thing was, when they come through that door, boom, I'm going to hit them with the can, right? I'm going to throw the can at them because they not expecting it. So, surprise them, get them out of there. But this time when they come in, I'm way down on the other station doing inventory of medication. So when they run in just like they say, jump over the counter, right in your face, and everybody put your hands up, I'm like, God dang, I'm out of place. I'm out of place. So everybody putting their hands up, and they like, give me, there's two of them. One jump over, he was standing next to me. The other jump over, he was standing next to the owner. And he was like, with the gun to her head, put the stuff out your purse. Give me the money out your purse. Then turn the gun to the other one. Give me the money out the register. I had the gun on me. Give me this drug, give me that drug. We putting the stuff in the trash bag. Throwing all the narcotics that they want into the bag. And they open the cash register and they like, This all the money in the cash? Where's the money? And I was like, it's a goddamn pharmacy. They got no whole lot of money. Everything is hard, goddamn it. You know, get the shit, get the hell on out of here. So they trying to jump back over the counter. The bag that we put it in is, you know, these little small trash bags. So the bag bus, you know, I'm trying to pick up the damn drugs off the floor. Like, in the world, and they run off and go out the door. Then the owner, she take off with them, and I'm going to get her. I'm like, get the hand back up in here. You know, they run off that way. They could be, you know, you looking out and try to shoot you or whatever. And so we call the police. Police come. They were sitting over in the parking lot for at least 15 minutes. And like walked over to the store and was like, yeah, we was over there in the parking lot. We saw, oh, motherfucker, you didn't do that. What you sitting there watching the goddamn robbery? You don't even come when you see them run off. You wait to come. Shit is this? I mean, it's you know, it's like this Barney Fife bullshit. So it's, you know, being in these situations at those times, very stressful. And to know that it was, you know, Black people that was committing the crime. Now, when they had the gun on me, they didn't touch me with the gun or not like they did her. You know, they put the damn thing, she felt that metal. They didn't do that to me. You know, they were talking to me, but they were yelling to her. You know, and then the other two techs that was there, they still had their hand up. Still got their hand up. Everybody gone, they still there. Look, put your hands down. Don't now.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And you know, when damn FBI come a few days later to take everybody, you know, information and all that shit. You know, it's like, you know, you know, the robberying of pharmacies is on the rise, this, that, and the other thing. You know, well, what's the chance that you're gonna catch it? Not very good. You know, really don't catch a lot of them. It's a crime, but it's not a high crime. You know, it's like, you're like, look, nobody get killed. It was a good day. You got insurance. It was a good day. And that's how it is. So it's can imagine our family being in there and, you know, this dude, like, I'm going to kill them if you don't open this door. That property. Because even the dude didn't commit a crime for you to lock him in. Because he didn't walk out with the material. So he didn't even commit a crime. But they had to lose their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a real problem.
Most
That's
certainly.
real.
Most
And I truly believe that the owner should be in jail as well. You operating a business without a license, you should be in jail as well.
Yeah, but the thing is that what will dictate if they are charged and eventually make their way to jail is quite simply the politics of the area, all these other things that are not going to necessarily be officially a part of the trial. But if Black folk don't have those lined up, solidarity, a demand for prosecution, you're going to continue to lose. You know, regardless of what situation, what issue that we look at, these very core things continue to rise up, and it is quite simply, it boils down to you need to educate your own, and there is strength in numbers. And the way that you manufacture consent is that way. We have to arrive, like other groups arrive, already of one mind and like-minded. Now, we don't have to demand consensual agreement upon everything. However, We need to be in agreement that our goal is to make it to, let's say, Atlanta, Georgia. Now, you may fly there, some of you may be bicyclists and you want to ride your bicycle there, but we're going to Atlanta, Georgia. Where we're at right now, some of us are trying to go to Atlanta, other ones are going to New Mexico, somebody else is going to Canada. There is no consensus of what the ultimate goal is. That ultimate goal has to be the liberation and salvation of the Black nation. And if you're not about that life, to use street lexicon, then you're not one of us. And you should be ostracized, and you should not be allowed to be at our meetings. You should not be sitting on any board. You have no voice with us. You go eat somewhere else. But for us here, we're going to Atlanta. And because you have no desire of going to Atlanta, you're excused. And that has to be how we operate. It doesn't have to be public. It doesn't have to be loud. But we do have to be very serious about handling our business in a very efficient and effective manner.
Exactly, exactly. And our last video I want to share that I know we're running on time, but I wanted to get to this one. And let's go ahead and play it and get your reaction, Doc.
Store clerk, store owner, shoots, kills a 14-year-old child, shoots him in the back. Put up the picture full mass. A 14-year-old Black child is dead after being shot in the back by the owner of a Shell gas station in Columbia, South Carolina. Cyrus Carmack Belton was killed by 58-year-old Rick Chow after being falsely accused of stealing bottles of water. Chow was the owner of the Shell gas station on Park Lane Road, and he and his son chased Cyrus out of the store at approximately 8 p.m. on May 28th. I want you to let that sink in. A father-son duo chase a young Black kid, shoot him in the back. Does it sound familiar to you? According to WIS News, Chow chased Cyrus from the store because he assumed the kid had taken water and shot him in the back following the chase. Chow's son reportedly told his father that the teenager was armed. Deputies allegedly found a firearm near the body following the shooting. It is in dispute right now if that firearm even belonged to the child. Now, here's what we know for sure, okay? A child is dead, a child was running away, and here's what the announcement was from the police.
The owners of the convenience store suspected him of shoplifting. He did not shoplift anything. We have no evidence that he stole anything whatsoever. There was a verbal confrontation inside the convenience store. The victim went outside. He took off running. The son of the owner of the convenience store gave chase. The father, who owns the convenience store, joined in the chase. He was armed with a pistol. They chased a young man towards Springtree Apartments. Young man fell down. He got back up. At some point, the son said that he had a gun. At that point, the father shot the young man in the back. Even if he had shoplifted 4 bottles of water, which is what he initially took out of the cooler, and then he put them back. Even if he'd done that, that's not something you shoot anybody over, much less a 14-year-old, but you just don't do that. We're charging the owner of the store, Rick Chow, with murder.
What about the son? I got some questions here that I want to pose for you because I think you will follow. 14-year-old goes into a store. According to the surveillance footage, he takes 4 bottles of water. What does that mean? That means he's thirsty. That means he's thirsty. He takes 4 bottles of water. He puts them back. There's an argument. There's conflict inside of the store. Why do you think the 14-year-old is running? If the 14-year-old is running, it would not be outside of the box to assume he has either A, been threatened, or B, he has been shown a weapon and was afraid. So he's running for his life. He falls at one point. Why does he fall? Because he's so nervous. He's a child. He's so nervous that he's unable to connect his mind to his feet. And he falls. He stumbles. And he's killed. According to the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, surveillance footage showed that Cyrus was not shoplifting when he was chased from the store. Sheriff's Office also said there was no evidence that the teenager pointed a weapon at Chow or threatened him prior to the shooting. And Lott confirmed that Cyrus was running away from Chow when he was shot. Cyrus reportedly took 4 bottles of water out of the cooler, but then put the bottles back before arguing with Chow and leaving the store. Chow's son chased after Cyrus, and Chow then chased with a pistol. Okay? All right. Devaluation of life, bigotry, racism, the belief that it's okay to have a business, an establishment in a particular community, but not value the lives of the children who exist in that community, who live in that community. This is why we do what we do at Indisputable. We want to bring not only awareness, but we would like to bring consciousness to it. We want you to have an absolute understanding of what's real and what you can do to change it. This 14-year-old is dead. He's dead. He wanted water. If that does not jolt you, shake you to your core as to what needs to change in this nation, maybe this will. If Mr. Chow was a police officer, he would be getting a promotion next week. Mr. Jackson, thoughts?
Well, I think that, no matter how you look at this story from any type of lens, ideological, political lens, cultural lens, whatever, as the officer pointed out, shooting somebody over water just is not necessary. Using a gun or really feeling the need to take someone's life or go that far with violence really isn't necessary or isn't even natural to feel unless you really feel like your life is threatened or you feel like maybe your loved one's lives are threatened. And obviously some water, anything that they may have taken out of the store, let alone the trouble that would come from it. It just doesn't make sense other than looking for an opportunity for that violence and looking for an opportunity to let loose. And that goes into many issues that this country has. And one of those huge issues is the ease of access to legal guns and how often these types of things happen with people who look at, again, no matter what their ideological lens is, if somebody's willing to just take their gun out and shoot somebody in the back over some water, then, that's a huge issue there. And in 2 days or maybe tomorrow, there'll be another mass shooting that we'll be talking about. And so many of those issues stem into the racism issues that you pointed out. So I think that this was, as you pointed out, it's important to look at this from every angle, but 4 bottles of water just simply isn't worth that type of violence.
Right. And the thing is, the irony on top of the irony, on top of the evil, on top of the racism is that he didn't steal anything. There's an update. A man.
Say you. What's your thoughts?
You know, stories like that, as a father, I immediately slide my son into that position. And the truth of the matter is that could have been my son. As brilliant as he is, as courageous as he is, as insightful and intelligent and intellectual as he is, they would see none of that. And it's one of the reasons why I say that Black boys in particular are truly invisible children, because you're not seeing them. They're not seeing them. What they're seeing are constructs of their own mind, which makes them criminals, which makes them thieves, and really looking at that child. In their minds, that child was probably 19, 20 years old. They, for all I care, both of them and anyone they're associated with, business-wise, socially, culturally, can burn in hell. There is no way of getting justice in cases such as this. Because in every way, the only form of justice would be if the Childs were to get in that grave and that young brother got up out of that grave and lived his death. We have to talk about these moments, these repeated moments, in the tersest language that we can come up with. And we need to, in many ways, adopt the moniker that the Jews adopted when they deal with their Holocaust, which is quite simply never again. And we have to take definitive steps to ensure never again, because the punishment that you're going to receive from us in the immediacy after you have transgressed upon our future will be so harsh and so instructional that none of you would dare think to do it again. And in many ways, you would leave the community, leave that business, because it would not be safe for you. That's the only response that I have. It is a shame. It is a loss of Black genius, of Black life. And the fact that others are not as angered by it tells me all I need to know about their vision and their view and their understanding of Black boys.
You know, Doc, when I first heard about the story, immediately the first thing came to my mind was Latasha Hollins.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. He was shot in her back.
I actually, I don't know if you can see it here. I actually wrote Latasha Hollins on my notes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. She shot in her back. Mm-hmm. Argument over orange juice, leaving the store. And here you have it. Almost the exact same thing.
It is the exact same thing. Only difference is at least this brother got to run a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that progress?
You know, when the Korean lady, I think her name was Du or something like that, but whatever her name, basically got off. She was convicted, but, you know, given a suspended sentence. Mm-hmm. She didn't serve not a day in jail. Mm-hmm. Not a single day in jail. And that kicked off the riots in LA. This is even, you know, more concrete of the reason why we have to Only people that fear black people is other black people.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
We are bigger than these Koreans, and they're not afraid of us.
Mhm.
But in reality, they should be. I watched that, and it's really amazing. In Temple University in North Philadelphia is in the heart of crime, where people getting killed, robbed, and these white teenagers walking through there without a care in the world. But black people walking through there, I hope I don't get robbed. I hope this don't happen. I hope this don't happen. But the cracker walked through like it ain't nothing.
Mhm.
Like it's just, it's all good. It's all, lazy fair. But black people are afraid of their own. And everybody else ain't afraid of us at no point in time.
Mhm.
That's crazy to me. It's crazy. And it has to change. Now, I'm not saying for us to be, quote unquote gangsters. Yeah, I'm not saying that. But I am saying there should be no enemy amongst us so secure that they feel like they can do anything and everything to us and there'll be no response.
Mhm.
That should never happen. Whether the enemy is white, Chinese, or black, they all gotta know there's a price to be paid. Has to be. To me, because that's the only way we secure our community. Anything else is just whistling Dixie. It's just whistling Dixie. It hurt my heart to see that another black person had to go out that same way. And as you said, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
You know what the sad part is I guarantee you that store is open and that son at least is in there working. And we're talking about a people who are so violent, so disrespectful to their own, that they will go to a funeral, grab the body out of the casket, and kill it again.
Mm-hmm.
And those who do evil in your community, in your midst, you won't raise a finger. You might have some tough words, but by and large, you're defeated. Let's just call it what it is. You're defeated. And you're not even physically defeated. You're intellectually, mentally, psychologically defeated. They got you way back in elementary school, where you understood what was and what was not permissible in your interactions with white folk.
Mellow Cap says that the judge in the Latasha Harlan case, the judge said that the Korean woman didn't look like a murderer.
Mm.
Wow. Didn't look like a murderer. And now that statement reminds me of what the judge in South Carolina with the cracker that went in there, the white boy that went in there and shot up the church, Dylan Roof. He said, this judge said, we got to have sympathy for Dylan Roof and his family. That's what the judge, we got to have sympathy for his family. What? We should feel sorry for his family. After the demon just came in and kill up our people.
Well, see, my thing is, where's and this is why I will always hang my hat on W.E.B. Du Bois's thing that the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. Moments like that definitively prove that it's race that is at the top racial allegiance and loyalty that is at the top of so many white folks' list of priorities in regards to priorities in their identity. Because the body of Christ should have been, with all of its multiculturalism and different flavors and colors, they should have been adamant that you went into one of our houses of worship and you killed Christians. Where was that righteous indignation? It was non-existent amongst the majority of them.
Mhm. Exactly. Not existent whatsoever. Whatsoever. And my greatest thing, as you talked about the ultimate goal, there's nobody on the outside of us that's going to liberate us. It is something that we have to do for ourselves.
Nobody's coming to save you now. And you have no friends. Dr. John Henry Clark told us that repeatedly.
Yeah. Yeah. We have no friends.
No.
And the sooner we understand that and accept, because I believe even in the nationalist community and the quote unquote, we for our people community, they know it, but they haven't accepted it. That's the reality. They haven't accepted that because they're consistently looking for, oh, you're an ally. Oh, you're an ally. You're going to be in solidarity with me. They consistently look for that. They have not accepted that. They have not accepted.
Yeah. And they never will.
No.
You're tenderhearted.
I'm going to say this and then we can go to closing comments. Emil, the one that's in the Navy, and me and him talk every day.
Okay.
And he has me in this group with Africans who he's been trying to wake up and let them understand who the white man is. Look here, Emil is
that's heavy lifting right there.
Emil is doing it, man. I'm telling you, and he has his own struggles in the Navy and dealing with that. But even when he's in these African countries and he's telling them to their teeth who the white man really is and who they really are, they fight it. They don't want to accept it. Even when he break it down and he allowed, well, look at what they've done to your country. They don't want to accept the fact that the enemy is who they are. They don't want to accept it.
You got to remember that so many of our people are idolaters. They've made white people, the white man, their God. And as the old gospel saying, your arms are too short to box with God. They're not going to even try and fight. They'll turn, and they will turn and tell you that you are wrong. What you are saying, as if this patient, pacifist, loving language and accommodating nature that they have is going to get these people's foot off of their neck. If only we can be gooder than we've been before, we will be all right.
Exactly. Doc, so let's move to closing comments. In your closing comments, I would like for you to be able to address, how would you address this brother's family, the 15-year-old, and Latasha Harlan's family, because I'm quite sure when they see it, if they haven't already seen it, it will stir something in them, because as you said, that's the exact same thing happened to her. And what does that mean to our future?
What I would say to them, first off, I would offer condolences and acknowledge the terrible loss of life, the unnecessary loss of life. Many people say that the worst loss that one can have is to lose a master teacher. I would put also losing children, because quite simply the children, they could very well possess what we need to get out of this fix. But I would also trust that with a imploring for them to do something major. They have to decide what that something is, because otherwise, if you do not make this a marker, you do not make this that pivot point, you're going to carry that in a very ugly, angry way that will eventually kill you. So do something. And once again, I leave that doing something up to them. Okay, now for me, nah, I can't even fathom someone doing lethal harm to my child, and then they go to work and I know where they work at, and I could walk in there and I could deal with them. God would have to, I would ask God to close his divine eye, because I'm getting ready to take his position, because on this occasion, on this one, vengeance is mine, and I will have my vengeance in this life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll end with that. We need to return back to basics, and the basics are quite simply loving each other with a manly, strident love, not a weak love. Love me enough that when you see harm happening to me, you intercede.
Exactly.
Don't go home and pray for me. Get in the fight. Be Christ-like in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Boys, get in the fiery furnace with me. Don't wait until I'm burned up and then you go, oh, that was a good brother, blah, blah. Where I'm going, I ain't gonna need your prayers.
Mm-hmm.
Peace and love, people. Love being with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Doc. And Deacons of Reality said, facts, Doc. Facts, most definitely. My closing comments. We have so much that we need to get done. And we have to understand that it all starts with you. It all starts with you. We love it that you come to the platform and you like what we say and you support us. But we want you to make sure that you also take that extra step to, yes, share the messages, but also live that life. Live that life. Because we are the only agents of change that we're going to get. Our people, when we're dealing in this religion aspect, you're not an Arab, so don't try to be one. You're a Black man and Black woman. You're the first people on the planet. You get caught up in this religious madness in Christianity, and you're not following, it's not teaching you the lessons that Jesus taught you. You're in this weak thing. They ain't got a damn thing to do with Jesus. And it's the perfect slave-making religion. See, there's a difference between the Christianity that y'all go to these churches that's on every corner than the church that, as Doc say, with the Black Messiah that he serves. It's a totally different thing. If your Jesus that you so-called love and worship will allow you to see this evil going on right in your face, and you can't do a damn thing about it, you ain't worth a damn, and your fake religion ain't worth a damn either. Because you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And it is time now that all of this foolishness cease. It is Black first today, or in no way. Time for playing is over. It's just over. It's enough. We have our children just running rampant. I wish we could have got to it, Doc, but there's a video that we're going to deal with next week where hundreds of Black children, you just out there running and tearing shit up. For no cause, no reason, just being destructive. We got to have order. And we're going to make order or else. Trust and believe. Truth has come to you today. Your foolishness will cease. And I'm telling you, with authority, it's coming to an end. As we always say, you kill a nigga in you, I'm going to kill a nigga in me. And our God reigns supreme. We are Black first. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Thank you, family. Love you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings. Shalom. Thank you, YouTube, for hanging in with us. We love y'all.
Love you all.